For this movie, we need to have two files open. One is called Profits. That's the one on the screen right now. And the other one's called Introduction. Now, if you look at the title bar, you're seeing the word Profits, but you might or might not be seeing the file extension, XLSX. That's the standard extension for an Excel file. The other file, and we can get to it quickly with Control-Tab. If you don't know the keystroke shortcut for that, go to Switch Windows on the View tab and go to the other file, Introduction. And you see its file name. It too has a file extension, but the file extension here is XLSM. If a file has a macro in it, it must have the XLSM extension. And so the other file, I'll press Control-Tab, does not have any macros in it. And as you work with files, and particularly with macros, and you're opening and closing files, that file extension really helps you quickly get a read on whether a file has a macro in it or not. Now, if you're not seeing these file extensions as you're working with Excel here, I strongly suggest you make a change in File Explorer. In the lower left corner, you'll see the Start button. Right-click on it and choose File Explorer. And from here, choose the View tab, and off to the right, File Name Extensions. The pop-up below says Show or Hide the set of characters added to the end of files that identifies the file type or format. You want to have that checked. And once you make that check, it means as you work with Excel, opening and closing files, you will always see the file extension. And as you work with File Explorer, you'll see those file extensions as well. So let's go over to the other workbook. Those who work with macros frequently need to see the code that gets generated when a macro gets recorded. In fact, in later movies, you'll become very familiar with the Visual Basic for Applications window. Now, if you haven't seen it and you're trying to track down the macros that are in this workbook, many times you'll press Alt F11. If I've just opened Excel and I haven't gone there at all, Alt F11 in effect opens the Visual Basic for Applications window. If I press Alt F11 again, I'm not closing it, I'm simply jumping back into Excel. Press it again, we're back and forth here. And many times when you're working with macros, you'll be using that keystroke shortcut. So I might want to close that window. If I press Alt F11, come back here. If I really want to close this, I don't need it for a while, I could close it, upper right-hand corner. Now, the reason I'm making a point of that is when we open certain files that have macros, we're going to be seeing different kinds of prompts and can be a little bit confusing. So right now, that macros window is not open. If you have any doubt about that, hold down the Alt key, keep it held down as you press Tab. And what do we have open out there? Well, we don't have that Visual Basic window open. And by the way, it didn't hurt to have it open, but let's say we know for sure right now it's not open. So we're going to open a file and show you what it looks like, and then open the VBA window and open that same file and show you how it looks different. So right now, VBA window is not open. We're going to open another file. File open. It's in a different location. It's on the C drive here in a folder called Test Folder. It's called Realtors, XLSM. We open it and we get a prompt that says, security warning, macros have been disabled. Enable content. Well, I'm a little bit nervous here. I don't think I want to do that. Maybe I look at the file. It's got some good information in it. I have it open for a while. I do nothing else. I close it. Control W is a fast way. There will be no prompt since I made no changes. Now, what if I decide to open the VBA window? Maybe I want to check out some of the macros that are in this workbook, some of the code. Alt F11. I look here, I look there, double click here, that sort of thing. I'm finished for a bit. I'm not closing this window. I'll jump back into Excel with Alt F11. Now I'm going to open that same file I opened before. Remember, the first time I opened it, I saw a banner here just across the top of the worksheet. I'm going to go back again, File Open, Control O, makes it a little bit faster. It's in my recent list. There it is right there, Realtors. And this time I get a completely different kind of notice. Microsoft Excel Security Notice with a little bit of rationale, discussion here about macros and so on. I do see Enable and Disable. I'll just pick Disable because I want to see the data again. But notice how we get a different prompt, all depending upon whether the VBA window was open or it wasn't open. Now, as it turns out, maybe I want to make some changes here, but I'm not sure yet, so I'll close the file. Control W is a fast way. Now, is the VBA window open? Let's remind ourselves, Alt Tab, it's open right now. Maybe we'll close it. Now, do I have to close it? No. I'm going to close it, come out here from the X in the upper right-hand corner. At a later time, we'll come back. I'm going to open the realtors file again. I open it. Now, this prompt again, and I've decided to enable content. I've gotten word that this is all safe. I enable content, but I get disrupted. I don't have a chance to do anything. Now, all I've done is click that button. I haven't made any changes. I'm going to close this. Control W is the fast way. And a few minutes later, I'm going to open it. Control O, realtors, no prompt whatsoever. Simply by clicking that enable button, that yellow button that we saw here at the top of the screen, it's as if I put a marker on this file to say, from now on, it's safe. You can open it, even though it's got macros in it. So that can be a little bit confusing at times. Now, I've got another file in that same folder that I haven't opened yet. I'm going to go to File Open again, either Control O, File Open, either way, Browse, and it's called Interact. I've never opened this before. I open it, and of course I get a prompt, as you would imagine, and nothing wrong with that really. But what if you've got lots of files there and they were given to you or sent to you by a friend, a trusted friend, let's say, or someone who works in your office, and you know that those files are certainly going to be good. It could get a little annoying here to see this frequently. So let's close this and close this too. And consider the following. Go to the File tab in the ribbon. Down the left-hand side, choose Options. You'll see Trust Center on the left side there. Trust Center Settings. Trusted Locations. If you open files from trusted locations, you will not get a prompt. So what might we do here? Let's add a new location to those trusted default locations. I'm simply going to choose Browse here rather than typing this in. So this particular location, it's on the C drive. It's the test folder right there. I'll click OK, and it's right here. And many times, of course, there could be folders within folders. So most of the time, probably you would want to choose subfolders of this location. Now, keep in mind, this location could be a flash drive, another location on the network drive, or somewhere else on the C drive as well. Click OK. That's now on the list of trusted locations. We could click OK now and OK. So what if we now try and open that file? File Open, Browse, and it's again on the C drive, test folder, Interact, click Open. What happens? No prompt whatsoever because this file is from a trusted location. Now there's one other aspect of security you want to be clear on too. Go to the File tab, choose Options, Trust Center Settings. Off to the left, you'll see Macro Settings. For most Excel users, you want to have the second of the 4 radio buttons checked here. The last one says Enable all macros, not recommended, potentially dangerous code. It really shouldn't even be there. If you work with digitally signed macros, and in some environments those are important, you'll want to click that button right there. The first button, in effect, says, I never want to be using macros at all. They're all going to be disabled, and I won't even know, possibly familiar with file extensions, I might not even know if they exist. So most Excel users working with macros will want to disable all macros with notification. And so what this really means is we want to be able to see if there's a macro there when we're opening files that are not coming from trusted locations. When they do come from trusted locations, we don't get a notification and the macros are not disabled. So putting all these features together sometimes can be a little bit tricky, and you're not always sure sometimes, but I think the general word is if you're working with macros, approach with caution if you're getting Excel files from other sources and they might contain macros. If you're in a pretty high security environment, you don't worry about this too much. Much of this has probably been dictated from above, and you're working in an environment where the files are safe. But keep in mind, you can establish your own trusted locations to store files that you know are safe. And when you're opening other files that you're not too sure of that contain macros, you always want to pause and think whether you want to enable content or not. So lots of different issues associated with security and macros.